Somewhere, hundreds of thousands of years ago, a human looked another human in the eye and said something that wasn't true. We will never know their name. We will never know what they said. There's no fossil of a lie. No skeleton shows deception. But scientists are confident of one thing. At some point in our evolutionary past, lying was invented. And here's the disturbing part. It probably wasn't invented by a villain or a manipulator or someone trying to cause harm. Research suggests lying may have evolved as a direct side effect of something we consider one of humanity's greatest strengths: cooperation, the same trait that allowed early humans to build trust, share resources, and survive together, may be the exact same trait that gave birth to deception. So today, we're not asking who told the first lie, we're asking something more important. Why did lying become baked into human nature itself? And the answer might make you question every conversation you've ever had. Let's start with something most people assume, that lying is a flaw, a corruption, something that emerged when society got complicated, wealth, power, jealousy. But that assumption turns out to be wrong. Charles Darwin was actually one of the first people to scientifically document lying behavior. In his notes, he described watching his own child, at just 2 years old, successfully tell a deliberate lie. Not a mistake, not confusion, a calculated falsehood designed to get a specific result. This wasn't an isolated case. Modern child psychologists have confirmed it repeatedly. Children as young as 2 years old are capable of intentional deception, long before they fully understand complex morality, long before society teaches them right from wrong. The capacity for lying appears to switch on almost as early as language itself. This raises an uncomfortable question. If lying emerges this early, this naturally in every single human child, is it really a flaw at all? Or is it something much deeper, something built into the architecture of the human mind from the very beginning? Here's where things get even stranger. Deception didn't start with humans. Scientists have documented deceptive behavior across the animal kingdom. Some birds fake injury to lure predators away from their nests. Certain octopi change color and shape to disguise themselves completely. Primates, our closest relatives, have been observed using deliberate deception. Chimpanzees have been seen hiding food from dominant group members, only retrieving it once no one is watching. Some primates fake distress calls to manipulate group behavior. But here's the critical difference. Researchers point out that animal deception is fundamentally different from human lying. A chimpanzee hiding food doesn't necessarily understand that another chimp has a false belief about reality. Human lying requires something far more complex. It requires understanding that another person has their own separate mind, their own beliefs, their own knowledge, and then deliberately manipulating that knowledge using language. Only humans appear capable of this level of deception, using words specifically crafted to create a false belief in someone else's mind. This means lying isn't just about deceiving, it's about understanding minds well enough to manipulate them. And that level of understanding takes an enormous amount of evolutionary development. Now, here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. In 2013, researchers at Trinity College, Dublin, published a study analyzing deception across primate species. They wanted to know which species lie the most. The answer wasn't the most aggressive species. It wasn't the most isolated, solitary species either. The species with the highest rates of deception were the most cooperative ones. Let that sink in. The more a species depends on working together, sharing, and trusting each other, the more deception appears within that species. This seems backwards at first. Shouldn't trust and cooperation eliminate the need to lie? But researchers found the opposite. Cooperation creates trust. Trust creates opportunity, and opportunity creates the conditions for deception to thrive. If nobody trusts anyone, lying doesn't work because nobody believes anything anyone says. But once a society builds genuine trust, once people generally tell the truth and generally believe each other, lying suddenly becomes incredibly effective. A single convincing lie told within a high-trust group can be far more powerful than the exact same lie told among strangers who doubt everything. In other words, the more humans evolve to cooperate, trust, and rely on each other, the more valuable lying became as a strategic tool. This means cooperation and deception evolved together, not as opposites, as partners. This brings us to the actual mechanism that made human-level lying possible: language. Before complex spoken language existed, early humans could deceive through actions, hiding food, faking injury, avoiding eye contact. But these forms of deception were limited. Once language developed, something changed completely. Suddenly, humans could create entire false realities using nothing but words. You don't need to physically hide something anymore. You can simply say it isn't there. You don't need to fake an injury. You can just claim one happened somewhere you weren't. Language transformed deception from a physical act into a purely mental one, and this had massive social implications. A lie told through language could spread further, faster, and more convincingly than any physical deception ever could. It could also be combined with complex storytelling, alibis, excuses, elaborate justifications. Researchers studying the evolution of language and social cognition believe these two traits developed hand in hand. As human social groups grew larger and more complex, the ability to track who knew what, who trusted whom, and who might be deceiving you became a critical survival skill. This is sometimes called the arms race of deception and detection. As lying became more sophisticated, so did our ability to detect lies. And as lie detection improved, lying had to become even more sophisticated to succeed. This back and forth pressure may have driven much of human social intelligence forward. So, why would evolution favor liars at all? Wouldn't an honest species function more smoothly? Here's the uncomfortable truth researchers have found. In a world of limited resources, deception sometimes provided real advantages. A successful lie could secure extra food without conflict. A convincing excuse could avoid punishment for breaking social rules. A well-told falsehood could protect family members, allies, or one's own reputation. Crucially, deception didn't need to work all the time to provide an evolutionary advantage. It just needed to work often enough. Meanwhile, those who could detect lies gained an equally important advantage: avoiding manipulation, protecting resources, identifying untrustworthy group members before being exploited. This created a strange evolutionary balance. A species that lied too much would eventually destroy trust entirely, making lying useless. A species that never lied would lose out on the occasional but real advantages deception could provide. Humans appear to have settled somewhere in the middle, truthful enough to maintain functioning cooperation, deceptive enough that lying remained a viable, sometimes necessary tool. This isn't a flaw in human nature. It's a carefully balanced evolutionary strategy, one that's been fine-tuned for hundreds of thousands of years. This brings us to an uncomfortable mirror. We like to think of honesty as the default human state and lying as a corruption of it, but the evolutionary evidence suggests something different. Humans evolved as a species that is naturally both honest and deceptive, depending entirely on the situation. Modern psychology research backs this up. Studies have found that the average adult tells multiple lies per day, most of them small, low stakes, often described as harmless. We tell people we're fine when we're not. We compliment things we don't actually like. We make excuses for being late that aren't entirely accurate. This isn't necessarily a moral failure. It may simply be your brain running an ancient social program, one specifically evolved to maintain cooperation, avoid unnecessary conflict, and protect relationships. The same cognitive machinery that allows you to recognize when someone else might be lying to you is the exact same machinery that allows you to construct convincing lies yourself. You inherited both halves of this system from ancestors who needed both skills to survive in complex social groups. Every time you catch a white lie slipping out of your own mouth, or catch yourself doubting something someone just told you, you're running software that's been running in human brains for an extraordinarily long time. So here's the question this leaves us with. If lying evolved specifically because of cooperation and trust, not despite it, does that change how you think about honesty? Is a world with zero lying even something humans could function in? Or has deception always been the quiet price we pay for being a deeply social species? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think humans could ever evolve past lying? Or is it permanently part of who we are? If this changed how you think about something as simple as a white lie, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like if this made you rethink your last conversation, and send it to someone who definitely owes you the truth about something. Every week, we dig into the strangest secrets of human history and psychology. See you in the next one.